So I'm trying to highlight this lightweight thermal drill that I developed over the last several years, and how it may potentially be useful on the Juno ice field. So the story began in Calcaya in Peru in 2018. There's the ice cap in the background. This is our base camp for Glacial Lake. And we drilled at the summit with a 3-inch Swiss electromechanical ice drill. And you can see from these temperatures, 0, 0, 0, 0, 8, 10, 12, 15, it's definitely temperate conditions. And so much so that we hit a giant water table at 23 meters. We were drilling, everything was fine. All of a sudden at 23 meters, the hole filled with water. And then we drilled a little more, but we really couldn't get very good penetration with the electromechanical drill. So we basically had to quit the season at that point, which was a real bummer because we were hoping to get to bedrock. So we knew we would have to go back with a thermal drill. And at the same time, with the rate of warming that we're seeing around the world, glaciers heating up everywhere, there's more and more and more temperate material that we're probably going to be needing to drill into. So Paul Majewski and I talked, and he funded me to develop a lightweight thermal drill. So I worked with the AMC here on campus, and we developed this design right here. It's just a basic aluminum tube with a heating ring on the end, separated by a Teflon sort of spacer to stop the energy going back into the tube. This is some of the core that came out. It's about 3.5-inch diameter core. Comes out really nice in solid ice. This is what the setup looks like. It's essentially a generator, a control box, and then this is the electrical cord, and also thermocouple wires that go to the drill. So you can set the temperature on it, which is quite nice. This is what the heating ring looks like. It's just basically a resistive element brazed onto a stainless ring, and there's the thermocouple tacked on right there. So that brings me to JERP 2025. I was working with Kaylee on her burn evolution work, and so as part of that, I was the driller. So whenever she needed a core, she would send me out to a location. Most of the time we went to TKG4. We also went up to Divide one time, and we would drill. And as Scott can attest, drilling with the Kovacs, those wet, melty conditions is not the ideal way to retrieve a core. By the time we got deeper than about 5 meters, we were literally just pulling out, maybe 20, 25 centimeters with each run, because that was all we could do. And if you see this picture here, the drill is essentially just covered in water. It's like super wet. Sure, that was expected, but it's the first time I've ever drilled in a drenching rainstorm, like being literally soaked while I'm drilling. It's very, very, very foreign to me, but it was interesting, really, really interesting. So these are some of the temperature profiles from 4 cores from June 12th, 15th, 19th, and 22nd. Really don't see much of a change. 32 degrees, pretty much consistently all the way down. This, we believe, was maybe the getting close to the ice surface, and that was why we started to see slightly colder. Definitely temperate, that's for sure. So for those of you that are familiar with the Kovacs coring system, it's a fairly basic design, helical chip transport up the outside of the core, using the hole as the outer barrel, essentially. But when you have wet chips, they don't travel well. So they will go most of the way up, if not all the way, But what they're supposed to do is fall into a little tiny slot up at the end here, right there. So the chips are supposed to, once this is in the ice, chips are supposed to travel up the flights, fall in a little tiny hole, which kind of works when you've got nice cold, crumbly crystals. But when everything's wet, what ends up happening is the chips come up the side and naturally glue themselves onto the outside of the hole. So as you drill further down, you then can't pull the thing out because you've got chips stuck on the outside of the hole above the drill. So the only way around it is to actually wind the drill backwards and try and come back through your chips that are stuck on the hole, and it's just not ideal, really. So we also drilled with the 2-inch Felix ice drill, and we drilled a divide on the 15th. And I think we got there like just in the nick of time because we had really, really nice conditions. It was a hot day, sun was out, and but the burn below the surface was cold. So everything was moving nice, chips were traveling well, and we got an 11-meter core before we ran out of time, and then had to book it over to the Camp 18. Yeah, that was a good day because we did the Kovacs in the morning, 2-inch in the afternoon, and then made it over to Camp 18. Now again was on the 15th, and then another group came in right afterwards and started using the 2-inch drill and got it stuck twice between the 15th and the 20th. Now I suspect that was because there was significant melt occurring, which there was like everywhere, of course. But this is what the temperature profile looks like on the 15th. So it's warm at the top and immediately dropping down, nice and cold. It's just like 27 degrees. And then jumping back up and settling out. The mean temperature seems to be about 31 back here. So still below freezing, but warmish. So I think what happened, and the reason why the 2-inch drill got stuck, was because the group that went out after us, they reported that there was water. The melt at the surface was so intense that there was water dripping into the hole, just from those surface layers that were melting. So you imagine if you pour water in a hole that's cold like this, what's going to happen? It's just going to freeze in. And that's exactly what happened. They stuck it twice. And on the second time, they kinked the cable, tore some of the conductors, and then we had to re-terminate it at Camp 10, which was a real pain, but we did it. So, lightweight thermal ice core drill. Tested it in Peru in solid ice, and it works really, really well. It's 1700 watts at 240 volts. Penetration rate 15 minutes per meter in solid ice, so it's pretty fast. The barrel diameter is 4 inches. The core that comes out is about 3.5 inches. It comes in about 3 boxes, 30 to 35 pounds each. This is the long one, like the rifle box that has the barrel, and this is the chunky one that has the control box and cables, and then this one can be a little smaller, just with tools and stuff. The value is about 18,000. The real challenge is that you need a 240 volt generator that can produce 1700 watts continuously. So at relatively low elevations, you can get away with a 2K, but as you start going higher, like in Peru, we needed a 3 or 3.5. The diameter of the drill is designed to work with a Kovacs Mark III. So the idea is, if you get something in the hole, like some grit or something's blocking the hole, send the Kovacs down, scrape it out before going back in with the thermal drill. So they pair up together like that. Here, it's just 3D drawings. So in addition to the lightweight thermal drill, I also, with the help of Mike Vaskovich, modified all of the 3 Mark III Kovacs augers that we have here in E3RB. And what we did you can see here is we drilled holes in the barrel. So do you remember the old Pico design that used to have holes all the way down? The old-fashioned Pico. So it's sort of like that idea. So the chips will come up the flights, then they hit this barrier that we screwed into place. So they can't travel any further. So what do? They fall in the hole. So we're basically forcing them into the barrel instead of letting them up the top to try and fall in. We also made a set of shoes that actually go around the whole surface of the cutter head, and that really stabilizes the whole head. So the blade only, you can adjust how much you want it to stick out based on what you're drilling into, essentially. So as you go into more and more icy conditions, you can add these little shims and just really start scraping away more gently. So I'd like to bring one of these to Juneau for sure this year. I don't know about whether or not we can manage the thermal drill with a 2 or a 3K generator, but it'd be awesome to give it a try. I've never tried it in firm. So this is the big unknown, is how does it behave in firm? Does it just speed up and penetrate more quickly, or does it melt everything and saturate the core inside the barrel? That's a bit of an unknown at this point, but I'd like to find out, because if it doesn't saturate the core, then I think it will be a great opportunity, and probably more efficient and much quicker than using the Kovacs or the 2-inch. Yeah, that's it. That man over there.
What's your drill depth for the system you have now?
At the moment, you mean for this?
Yeah, for that one. Yeah.
At the moment, it's got a 10-meter cable on it. I've bought a 20-meter cable. Okay. I haven't fitted it.
So we might be able to do kind of at the divide. The divide we think is like, if we dug a pit, you might be able to get the full pit plus the fern, as or not quite fern thickness, but you could get, if you had a 20-meter cable, we could cover the depth that the Felix is supposed to cover.
Yeah, yeah. I think we could match the Felix if we had to.
We have, I don't know if Andy's on, but we have multiple 2.5Ks, or the 2.2s, Hondas.
Yeah. So what's the elevation? It's 1,500 meters at Camp 10.
Divide is only like 2,900 or something. No. It's not even close to that. It's like, what is it? It's only like 6,500 feet high. Yeah. So it's like 2,000. It's like 2,000 meters. So it's not super high.
Yeah. So 2K might do it.
Yeah. We have bigger generators up there as well. It just, we had I think we had like a 6.5K for the NSF thermal drill. Yeah. We weren't sure what they were really going to need, so we went big, and we could transport it up there if we need to. But better than like 2.5 is the 2,200 is way easier.
That's ideal. And I was looking online. Honda just put out a new 3.5K that weighs like 65 pounds.
It's like it's almost as light as a 2,200. Yeah,
it's just like 10 pounds more. So and that'll be really nice in future.
We have a half a dozen of the 2,200s. So.
Yeah, because prior to that, Honda putting out that generator, the 3K was like 130 pounds. Yeah, their previous 3K.
Yeah,
and they've like cut that weight in half. Okay. So super nice. The issue, the hard part is finding one that puts out 240 volts. Yeah. So might have to be like specially ordered.
Okay.
Or buy a voltage converter, like a 2,000 watt voltage converter that will switch 120 to 240.
Do your search. We'll find it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So you think
Kaylee will be happy? So Kaylee will be happy.
Oh yeah, more drills. Yeah.
I just had a question about the adaptations you made to the Kovacs. Did you have any issues with ice chip compaction at the top of the barrel, or were you just a lot more conservative when you're drilling down. So
Just because of that barrier that's there.
yeah, or just the
Just
chips.
because of this bit.
Yeah, or like within the core barrel itself, because we had quite a few issues of ice chips getting into the barrel as we're drilling. So you could still keep descending down, but those chips would just compact. So then when you're trying to pull it up, require like a lot more force to get it out. So
Yes.
we did anything similar.
How were they getting in? Were they getting in this end? Like on the outside of the core?
Yeah, so it was a combination, but lots of them had fallen out into the borehole, and I guess we're just getting compacted through the bottom of the drill, but had nowhere to go up the top.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't really have that issue. The issue I had, we were using a Mark II, the red one. But the main issue is trying to figure out what's core and what's chips. Because when you're in that upper fern that's super loosely consolidated, really crystally, it's almost a guessing game. But you can get little spacers like this thing that actually hangs from the top and hangs from that on a string, hangs in the barrel and allows the chips in, but like catches them, and then the chips build up on top of that. And then when you empty it, it's a nice divider. They call it the little man, I guess.
yes, yeah.
Which is a weird name. Yeah.
One of the things that we're really interested in is meltwater in the snowpack, right? And so one thing that's be concerning is generating heat. As we melt down, we're doing things like using the wide sensor, for example, to measure permittivity and doing our density measurements to try to get relative permittivity and density and
Precisely.
a lot of so I guess I wonder your thoughts. I mean, would it be that we make some modifications to the Kovacs and just use that strictly for the near surface snowpack observations? Or do a comparative study? Because if this was a quick way to get rapid snowpack observations, and we're doing these snow surveys for the projects that we're working on, it seems like it would be valuable, but I do worry about the actual generating meltwater in the system and biasing our actual quantitative measurements that we're
Changing the Y sensor measurement.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is my worry as well. It's like, does the thing just melt down real quick?
Yeah.
And leave the core unaffected? Probably, I'm going to say the chances of it being completely unaffected may be slim. Yeah. But then you think, oh, maybe it's just going to affect the outer layers. So if you put in the Y sensor in the middle, should be okay. Yeah. I don't know though how much meltwater is going to be generated during that melting, during the drilling process. Yeah. And where does it go? Does it go out into the wall? Does it go inside into the core? When we were first developing the thermal drill, we only had a 1K heater on it. And it wasn't enough, and it was melting the core away. So we were just getting like a pyramid as it went down, and it was just literally it was empty every time because it was just melting the core. So we discovered that it had to be more powerful, and the more powerful it is, it's counterintuitive. You think, oh, it will melt the core, but it actually goes by much quicker and does less damage.
One thing I wonder, you said the core diameter for the thermal drill is like 3.5 inches.
Yeah.
I don't know if Zoe's on today or not, but I think what she is this morning, yeah. I can't remember the diameter of the Y sensor. She's on though.
It's about the same size as the 2-inch core, slightly smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wonder about coring is one step. I wonder about then we trim the sides off that might have been in contact with the thermal core, and somehow if we had some other mechanism to trim it, because what we were doing is fitting drilling a hole and fitting the Y sensor over top of the core.
So when we were doing it, we were putting the Y sensor in from the end,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the outside's
So
sort
it's
of
like,
falling off anyway.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were getting our measurement from the interior.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great with the, you know, with the Kovacs core, you got a lot of extra space,
Yeah.
sort of wiggle room, so you can get the Y sensor in with the 2-inch drill. You sort of have to be real careful, because if you mess it up,
You won't have.
then you're not going to have good contact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was always said she's avoided cold, warm glaciers and warm snow, so I don't know if she wants to chime in on this idea.
It's also worth remembering, you know, 23, 24, 25 are the 3 warmest years
Yeah.
since historical records began. Right, so that melt we were experiencing in 25, pretty extreme. But I wonder, you know, thinking back to the teens, was it the same or was it less?
Well, last year was really different. I don't know if Brad and I might not be on, but last year was very different than what is normal. We had a late storm. We had a late season
Yeah.
where I think we got probably a couple meters of snow dumped on us up high. And then when we were driving on the high divide, we were literally driving over Strugi, which I had never seen before up there. Usually it's like flat, smooth up there. I think it was like this, you know, late season storm, and then you had high winds, and it created Strugi that you might see in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And it was just very different. And so I wonder if that late season storm dropped this cold temperature snow that was kind of a barrier to, and then you had melt, so that's where you had that, you know, the warm layer over top of the cold temperature. Exactly. That's what caused it with that late season snow. And I suspect we're going to have a really heavy snow year this year, just based on what Juneau got hit with this year. I suspect it's going to be another dig down to our camps, and a very safe driving around year, because
which is nice.
10 meters.
Tons of soft stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of snow.
Yeah.
But I do think it's worth bringing up there and comparing with the Felix. You know, it might make sense to try to do some comparative studies with the Felix and the thermal, just to see.
And the Kovacs.
Yeah, the Kovacs, yeah, just to see what you get.
Put the Y on all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or Y, is it Y or Wise?
Wise. WISE.
Okay.
Yeah.
I keep calling it Y. The letter Y.
But why?
Like, you got a Zoom question?
Do we have a Zoom?
Patrick.
Yeah,
This
this is Patrick.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Patrick.
How you doing? On the interest of power, I know of at least 3 generators that are at least 1,500, and one of them's quite large, probably around 5 kilowatt, 220 volt, that we use in the ROV industry for some of our ROV equipment that is in Juneau currently. It just hasn't been run in 2 years. It would take a little bit of prep to get them ready.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, if you got a 3K, I mean, ideally the closer to the 1,700 watt, the better. 15.
Okay,
might be a little low.
I'll get some information together, and I'll. Is it okay if I funnel it through you, Seth?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thanks,
Okay.
Patrick.
Yeah, and if they need like a carb cleaning, that can be accomplished relatively easily. And new plugs.
Yeah, well, it's these things are things we use quite frequently in hypercritical equipment that used underwater remote robotics. So yeah, they're in pretty good shape.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you know the specs on them. And as far as availability, I don't have anything going on at that time frame, but we'll see.
Thank you.